I spend much of my time flying through dangerous areas of space, whether the depths of Alliance Nullsec or the uncharted reaches of Anoikis, and a cloaking device helps me to move unnoticed, unhindered, unhunted. Throughout this is my most stalwart companion, the Lucid Echo, my cheetah covert ops frigate. I remember when I first got her. I was in the Great Wildlands at the time, travelling with a Thuk caravan, and learning the ropes of probe scanning. I'd finally earned enough ISK to upgrade from my old second-hand probe to my own cheetah, the Lucid Echo, so I travelled out to collect her, and that evening in one of the bars aboard one of the caravan ships, a Thukker friend told me a story of how such technology came to be. On the edges of Gallente space is a system known as Crielere, and drifting above the first planet of the system are not one, but two stations side by side, anchored unusually close together. This is the Crielere Research Project, a joint venture between the Gallente Federation and the Caldari State, headed by Henrik Tuvol and Turomi Umailan, with heavy involvement from Duvol Laboratories and the Ishikone Corporation under Otro Garushi. During its short and controversial existence, the Crielere project was responsible for several important scientific breakthroughs, including the discovery of advanced cloaking technology, and it was the center of massive controversy. It was the first major project to recognize the manufacturing potential of Morphite, which Otro Garushi, CEO of the Ishikone Corporation, publicly announced would be freely available to everyone. The first controversy would hit in January of YC-106, when several valuable blueprints vanished from the labs. Though Crielere acknowledged the value of these blueprints, project leadership didn't seem too interested in tracking them down or catching the culprits. This ultimately prompted a visit from the Gallente Federation president himself, Sauro Feuertan, who led an official investigation that eventually concluded that the thefts had been masterminded by none other than Ishikone Corporation CEO Otro Garushi. Garushi tried to justify this at the time by claiming that the project's success was being driven primarily by the Caldari, implying that they deserved more rewards from the project, despite his previous claims that the technology would be freely available to everyone. Caldari greed and ego on display at its worst. These outrageous claims from the Ishikone prompted the Federation to withdraw funding from the project, shutting down large wings of the facility and prompting many scientists to, perhaps understandably, abandon the project entirely. This was the first nail in the coffin lid of the Crielere project, and unfortunately, things were only about to get far worse. After the perceived betrayal of the Ishikone Corporation and the Federation's withdrawal, project leaders called for unity and harmony, but this largely went unheeded as both the Federation and the state continued to withdraw funding and ultimately pulled their security forces from the station. Despite calls to simply close the project, both Tuvol and Umailan refused, barricading themselves and a group of loyal scientists into the facility at large. Almost the moment that the security forces withdrew, the station came under attack from the Guristas pirates, who had apparently been watching the project closely. Though the station had no defenses left after security pulled out, it survived the assault thanks to a hastily organized Capsuleer defense effort. After several waves of brutal fighting, the Guristas pirates were eventually pushed out of the Crielere system, though several prominent scientists were killed during the attack. This prompted a public outcry across both the Federation and state for the remaining scientists to surrender for their own safety. Some refused, many capitulated, and several formally classified blueprints from the project mysteriously began to appear on the open market. But the Guristas pirates weren't done, and soon a second assault was launched, led by both Jirai Laitanen, aka Fatal, and Karako Kosakami, aka the Rabbit. The station was breached, and both Tuvol and Umailan were captured before Fatal's ship was destroyed and he was podded. The Rabbit quickly recalled a retreat, and the Guristas hurried to sell the scientists away. A buyer was found with Aritzio Kor Azor, reigning heir to the Kor Azor family and, at the time, still a very controversial public figure. By now, the Crielere Research Project stations were left empty, battered husks. The sale of the scientists to such a prominent Amarian figure caused much outrage, with President Foretan himself negotiating for their swift and safe return, eventually convincing Aritzio to release them to the Federation in exchange for exclusive trade and mining rights within Galente space. The story perhaps should have ended there, but the two men freed turned out not to be the scientists at all, but two Minmatar slaves. Now, whilst I must celebrate the release of any Matari from servitude, this disgusting deception speaks volumes of the callousness and arrogance of the Amar Empire. To think one of their heirs could be so openly deceitful and stupid, to think that nobody would notice. The real scientists, Tuvol and Mylan, were eventually found tragically starved to death in the sulfur mines of Innis Elix I. Aritzio and the Corazor family attempted to claim that the slaves had somehow managed to steal the identities of these prominent scientists, and had somehow made off with several Amar classified documents. I don't personally believe this is true, rather choosing to believe that Aritzio wanted to keep the scientists longer to extract more knowledge from them. If it did prove to be true, then once again, does it not show how lazy and incompetent the Amarians are to mistake two Minmatar slaves for esteemed scientists? No, you can't con a con man, or so they say. Thus, I can't believe the Amar are so easily duped. Worse though, after these revelations, Aritzio Corazor had the audacity to demand the return of the slaves to Corazor for execution. But in a stunning display of vengeful defiance, President Foretan announced the slaves had been rightfully purchased and freed them. The deaths of Tuvol and Mylan marked the end of the tumultuous Crielere project. The cloaking technology produced had made its way into the Caldari State and Galente Federation when blueprints and documents had mysteriously surfaced on the open market there. Aritzio Corazor managed to extract the information from the captured scientists for the Amar Empire. But what about the Minmatar? Well, the official story is that the Republic purchased the documentation from the Caldari State, but my Thucker friend claims a different story. He claims there was a deal directly with the Guristas pirates themselves, and that's how Thucker Mix got the tech needed to design the cheetah blueprint. It is entirely possible that this is just the alcohol talking, and I doubt anyone who actually knows what happened would ever talk about it so openly. But however it came to be, it resulted in the production of my favourite ship. As I move from Crielere back towards our home system, I reflect on the atrocities and controversies of the Crielere project. Such a waste of human life, all in the name of nationalistic pride and greed. I like to hope that the advent of this technology, marred and tainted as the story may be, may have yielded more good for humanity than harm. Thinking of the Sisters of Eve, or even the Signal Cartel and Eve Scout, and the good that they do for the cluster. Thinking of how my own cloaks have saved my life from pirates and aggressors multiple times. I like to think that the good may yet wash away the stains of history. I can hope.